Picture this. A murder has been committed in secret. A man lies lifeless and no one knows who the killer is. The community is shaken. People accuse one another, suspicions rise, and justice seems impossible. But then, a strange command comes from Allah to slaughter a cow. Not to investigate, not to interrogate, but to sacrifice an animal. It sounds unusual. It sounds confusing. And yet, it was this command that would uncover the truth and expose a hidden crime that no one could solve. This is the Qur'anic story of Surah al-Baqarah, the cow that revealed a murderer. If you liked this video, please hit the like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more amazing content. The story begins with the children of Israel, a people blessed with miracles but often resistant to divine commands. A murder had taken place among them, and they turned to their prophet, asking Allah to show them who was guilty. They wanted the mystery solved. They wanted the murderer exposed, so Allah revealed the answer through his prophet. Indeed, Allah commands you to slaughter a cow. At first, the people were shocked. A cow? What does that have to do with solving a murder? It didn't make sense to them, so instead of obeying, they mocked, they stalled, they questioned. They said to their prophet, "Do you take us in ridicule?" The prophet replied firmly, "I seek refuge with Allah from being among the ignorant." This was not a joke. It was a command from Allah, but rather than submit, they tried to avoid it. They began asking unnecessary questions. "What kind of cow is it?" they asked. The prophet answered. He says, "It is a cow neither old nor young, but in between." Still, they were not satisfied. "What color should it be?" The prophet answered. He says, "It is a yellow cow, bright in color, pleasing to the onlookers." But again they resisted. "Describe it more for us. There are many cows that look alike," finally, the prophet said. He says, "It is a cow that has not been trained to plow the earth or water the field, free from fault, without blemish." By this point, they realized the command was serious. They had no choice but to obey, so they searched. And after difficulty, they found a cow that matched the description exactly. They slaughtered it. But even then, the Qur'an says, they slaughtered it, though they were near to not doing it. Their hesitation revealed something important. They were not resisting because the command was unclear. They were resisting because their hearts were reluctant to submit. They thought they could outsmart divine wisdom, but in the end, Allah's plan unfolded exactly as decreed. Now came the most astonishing part of the story. Allah instructed them to take a piece of the sacrificed cow and strike it upon the dead man's body, so they did. And by Allah's power, the man came back to life. He spoke, naming the person who had killed him. The murderer was exposed in front of everyone. And then the man fell lifeless once again. The Qur'an summarizes this moment in a single verse. So we said, strike the dead man with part of it, thus Allah brings the dead to life and shows you his signs, that you might reason. The case was solved. Justice was restored, and the miracle became a lesson for all generations. Obedience to Allah, even when it doesn't make sense to us, leads to truth, justice, and divine wisdom. The murder was solved. The truth had come out, but the story of the cow was never just about uncovering a crime. It was about something deeper, a lesson for all time, because the real question is this: why did the children of Israel resist so much? Why did they ask endless questions instead of simply obeying? At first, Allah's command was simple: slaughter a cow. That was it. It didn't matter which cow. Any cow would have fulfilled the order. But instead of acting immediately, they delayed. Instead of trusting divine wisdom, they tried to complicate it. And with every question, the command became stricter, the description narrower, the task harder, until finally, they had to search desperately for a very specific cow, a rare cow, difficult to find. What does this tell us? It shows that sometimes when people resist Allah's commands, they make their own lives harder. Had they obeyed the first time, Any cow would have been accepted, but their stubbornness closed every easy door until only the hardest path remained. This is the nature of disobedience when the heart hesitates. When it makes excuses, when it delays, the path only grows heavier, and this is not just their story. It is ours. Think about it. How many times do we hear a command of Allah and delay? We know the prayer time has entered, but we say, later. We know zakah is due, but we say, let me wait until I'm more settled. We know hijab, honesty, truthfulness, justice are obligatory, but we postpone, searching for loopholes. Every delay is like another question. Every excuse makes the path harder, until one day the opportunity is gone. The children of Israel thought they were being clever. They wanted to avoid the sacrifice, so they stalled with questions. But in the end, they were trapped by their own stubbornness. They had no choice but to obey, and by then, it was the most difficult obedience possible. The Qur'an tells us this so we don't repeat the same mistake. Now reflect for a moment on another detail of the story. Why a cow? Why not another animal? Subhanallah. Scholars explain that the children of Israel had inherited traditions from nations before them, where cows were revered, even worshipped. We see this in the story of the golden calf, when some of them molded a calf from gold and began to worship it during the time of Prophet Musa, peace be upon him. So Allah's command to slaughter a cow was also a command to shatter hidden attachments. It was a way to purify them from clinging to false symbols, and to teach them that obedience to Allah matters more than any cultural or personal attachment. The murder was solved, yes, but the deeper crime exposed that day was the crime of arrogance, the crime of resisting Allah's word, the crime of clinging to worldly attachments more than submission to the Creator. And isn't that still true today? Some people don't literally worship a cow, but they worship wealth, status, beauty, desires. When a command of Allah comes, they hesitate because they don't want to slaughter their idol. They don't want to give up what they are attached to. This is why the story of the cow is timeless. It's not about an animal. It's about the human heart. Do we submit or do we resist? When the slain man was struck with part of the cow and rose to speak, the people witnessed a miracle, a dead man brought back to life, if only for moments, to reveal the truth, but the Quran makes it clear. This was not only about solving a murder. Allah tells us, thus Allah brings the dead to life, and He shows you His signs so that you may reason. It was a glimpse into the power of resurrection, a reminder that the one who can bring life back into a corpse can also bring us all back on the day of judgment. You see, some among the children of Israel doubted resurrection. They doubted that life could return after death. So Allah gave them a sign with their very own eyes. The dead man rising, speaking, and then returning to the earth. It was undeniable. The same power that solved the murder would one day solve the mystery of the grave. But here's something even more profound. This was not just about the physical dead. It was about the spiritual dead, because after narrating this miracle, Allah describes their hearts. Then your hearts became hardened after that, like stones, or even harder, for indeed, there are stones from which rivers gush forth, and there are stones which split open and water comes out, and there are stones that fall down from fear of Allah. But your hearts became harder still. The dead man came back to life, but their hearts remained lifeless. The miracle was clear, but they refused to take heed. This is the tragedy of arrogance, that you can witness signs of Allah with your own eyes, yet remain blind inside. And isn't that still the case today? How many of us see signs of Allah daily? The sunrise, the rain, the answered prayer, the escape from harm, the blessings that appear suddenly in our lives. And yet we forget, we ignore, we move on as if nothing happened. The story of the cow is a mirror. It asks, do you want to be like the man who rose and spoke the truth, or like the people whose hearts hardened even after witnessing it? It also reminds us of something essential about faith. Submission comes before understanding. The children of Israel wanted to understand first. Why a cow? What color? What type? But Allah wanted them to submit first. Because true faith is not about obeying when it makes sense. It is about obeying because Allah knows best. And notice how Allah exposed the murder. Not through clever detectives, not through witnesses or evidence, but through His command. Justice came not from human power, but from divine wisdom. So the lesson is clear. When we submit to Allah, we are not losing control. We are placing ourselves in the hands of the one who controls all things. This is why the longest surah in the Qur'an is named al-Baqarah, the cow, not because the animal itself is important, but because the story behind it is a timeless reminder. Obey Allah without resistance, or your own excuses will bury you. The cow was slaughtered, the dead man spoke, the murderer was revealed, but the real crime would be if we hear this story and let our hearts stay dead. So ask yourself today, when Allah commands me, do I respond with, "We hear and we obey"? Or do I respond with hesitation, with excuses, with endless questions? Because one day, when the trumpet is blown, there will be no more delays. The dead will rise, the truth will be revealed, and every heart will know whether it lived with obedience or died with arrogance. If you liked this video, please hit the like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more amazing content.